Kuzusampo and a very warm welcome to Bhutan This Week, our weekly news magazine program. I'm Kinsang Haden. Our top stories this week. His Holiness the Jekempo appoints new principal of Taloshedra. Her Majesty Royal Grandmother Ajikeza Choden Wangchuk graces consecration of Hazong Tashigang Gemba in Thimphu. IMF World Economic Outlook projects Bhutan's growth rate at 3% for 2024. His Holiness the Jekempo has appointed 33-year-old Dendrup Doji as the new principal of Taloshedra in Punakha. His Holiness conferred the Da at the Tashichezong on Monday. The new principal is from Taksi in Trongsa. He entered Mangkhut at the age of 11. He graduated from Tango Dorden Tashithanga University in 2017 and completed his 3-year retreat from Shah Dechincholing Drupde in Wandiphoda. Prior to the current appointment, he served as a teacher at Tango Institute for Advanced Vajrayana Studies for 3 years. Her Majesty the Royal Grandmother Ajikezang Choden Wangchuk graced the consecration of the Hazong Tashigang Gemba in Honso in the capital recently. The Dojilebe of the central monastic body presided over the consecration ceremony of the monastery. Her Majesty the Royal Grandmother supported the renovation works of the structure.
The one-story Hazong Tashigang Gemba was initially built by 12th Jekempo Ginga Jamso in 1768. Later, it was further expanded into a 3-storied Gemba by 19th Jekempo Ngaung Chogyal. It has not undergone any major renovation for more than 200 years according to the teachers of the monastery. However, with support of Her Majesty the Royal Grandmother Ajikezang Choden Wangchu, the renovation works started in November 2020.
In
the year 2012, the Gemba was damaged by an earthquake. We submitted a proposal for the renovation. With the support provided by the government and Her Majesty, the Royal Grandmother Ajikezang Choden Wangchuk, the Gemba was renovated.
We worked on the restoration of the wall paintings of Dalhaga. Tashigang Gemba is one of the oldest monasteries in the country and it was badly damaged due to weather in the area. The timber was all damaged. Hence, we replaced all the damaged timber and pillars with strong and hard timber. The cracked walls were also renovated. We replaced the damaged wood and the walls.
The renovation team consists of workers from the Department of Procurement and Properties, the monks of Thangka Conservation Center under the Tensum Department of Shungdrasang, the Department of Culture and the Thimphu District Administration. Today, the Hazong Tashigemba has 60 monks and 7 teachers. Sonam Yuden for BBS News.
Gyaltse Truku Jimmy Tenzin Wangpo consecrated the renovated Pumola Gemba at Kawang Geok in Thimphu on Monday. Renovation work started in 2021. The renovation was done at a cost of around 2.7 million yutam. The Thimphu District Administration provided 1 million yutam and the remaining amount was collected through donations. The monastery, built in 1514, is said to be constructed by Lam Ngawang Chogyal. The place is also believed to have been blessed by Guru Rinpoche and Phaju Drogom Shikpo. The Anti-Corruption Commission imposed over 2 million yutam penalties for late and non-asset declarations for the declaration year 2022. This is according to the ACC's annual report 2022 to 2023. According to the report, the introduction of online asset declaration system has enabled the Commission to gather a lot of data from the declarants regarding their assets, income and liabilities.
According to the report, the Commission imposed penalties of 2.4 million yutam. Of this, the Commission has been able to collect 2.1 million yutam. 0.31 million ngitam were from late declarants and 1.8 million ngitam were from non-declarants. The Commission imposes a fine of 125 ngitam per day for both late declarants and non-declarants. 342 individuals were imposed fines for late declaration. 36 of them were heads of the agencies, which included members of parliament, GUPs, religious organization chairman, and corporation chief executive officers, and the rest were employees under the heads of agencies. According to the report, 22 individuals did not pay the penalties. The list was forwarded to the Royal Audit Authority for action. The Commission has waived penalties for 33 late declarants. The ACC report stated that penalties were waived where justifications for non-compliance were found justifiable. The ACC imposed fines on 48 for failing to declare, of which 5 did not pay the penalties. The case of those who did not pay the fines has been shared with the ACC's legal division for possible legal action. For the year 2022, more than 25,700 people declared their assets. Of it, over 1,300 declarants acquired new immovable properties and nearly 700 individuals acquired movable properties. The report also states that officials in P1 and above or equivalent positions acquired more compared to the lower-ranked officials. The objective of the asset declaration is to detect and prevent illicit enrichment and promote public trust through accountability, among others. Tashiangdan, PBS News.
The Anti-Corruption Commission received over 340 cases of corruption in the financial year 2022 to 2023. According to the ACC's annual report, the reported corruption cases are mostly regarding abuse of function, followed by bribery and embezzlement. Ministries had the highest number of corruption cases, followed by GEOC and district administrations.
According to the report, the Commission received 106 reports of abuse of function, followed by 26 cases of bribery and 18 cases of embezzlement. From that, 203 reports required further actions, including 53 which qualified for investigation. 139 reports were dropped. According to the report, the number of cases qualifying for investigation is a substantial increase compared to 2021 to 2022. Moreover, the report stated that none of the corruption reports lodged by unknown sources qualified for investigation. Ministries constituted the highest number of corruption reports, which is 39, followed by GEOC administration and district administration with 26 and 20 cases respectively. After the enactment of the Civil Service Reform Act, the Education and Skills Development and Industry, Commerce and Employment Ministries had the highest number of corruption reports. In the meantime, the report stated that for the first time in 4 years, the corruption reports against the GEOC administration witnessed a substantial dip. According to the report, this could be attributed to rigorous targeted advocacy and thematic sessions conducted for local government functionaries towards enhancing transparency, integrity, and accountability measures. With regard to the district administrations, the highest corruption reports were received against Paro, followed by Dagana. The Commission also received 12 referral cases from the Royal Audit Authority related to suspicion of corruption offences. The cases were reported mostly through webmail, followed by walk-in complaints, post and via Junlam ACC, which is a mode of reporting to ACC through WhatsApp and WeChat. Tashiangdan, PBS News.
During the National Assembly session on Tuesday, members reiterated the need for the Anti-Corruption Commission, ACC, to collaborate with the Election Commission to address election-related corruption during the upcoming National Assembly elections. Members also asked if the ACC's Integrity Assessment Certificate for aspiring candidates would really serve its purpose in curbing election-related corruption. These were discussed after the House's Good Governance Committee presented the review report on ACC's Annual Report 2022 to 2023.
Athang Thetso's Member of Parliament Kelewanchu said that there was no clear response in the ACC's report on how the Commission is going to curb corruption cases during the upcoming election. The House initially passed a resolution on the need for the ACC to initiate a collaborative effort to combat election-related corruption during the 8th session last year.
Election-related corruption needs to be addressed before a government is elected, because once a government is elected, it is possible that corrupt practices could continue emerging if people vote for the wrong party. For instance, in the ACC's annual report, ACC and Royal Audit Authority have formed a joint investigation committee. It would be beneficial if the same committee can be formed between the ACC and ECB as well.
In response, the Good Governance Committee's chairperson said that the ACC and ECB have already started discussions on how to work together to curb election-related corruption.
Furthermore, the need for the aspiring candidates to produce an integrity assessment certificate issued by the ACC is also one of the best measures to ascertain the integrity of an individual. The ACC has the honors whether or not to issue the certificate. So I think this is where the collaborative effort between the two commissions come in.
Similarly, other members emphasized on the need to curb corrupt practices during election stages, which will aid in a transparent and a just governing body.
I think the integrity assessment certificate would be beneficial in combating corruption. However, since the certificate is provided during the submission of the candidature and corrupt practices mostly happen during the campaign phases, there is a loophole in the procedure. So I'm skeptical if the certificate would really serve its purpose.
If the ACC deploys representatives in the districts during the election period, it would help keep a check on possible corruption emerging in communities. The integrity assessment certificate is only for the candidates, but the general trend is that corrupt practices are usually committed by party workers and supporters who do not need to produce the certificate.
The House decided to once again forward the recommendation to the ACC with a show of hands. Following extensive deliberations, the members voted in favor of endorsing all 6 recommendations made by the ACC and the Good Governance Committee. Tashyangdan, PBS News.
The Supreme Court sentenced Anim Damche to 15.5 years in prison for misappropriation of project fund, possession of unexplained wealth, and tax evasion. Regarding the misappropriation of the project fund and possession of unexplained wealth, which is related to the Buddha Dordhanmas project, she was sentenced to 9 years in prison. The court upheld the High Court's judgment, which was passed recently. After the High Court convicted Damche Choden, commonly known as Anim Damche, to 9 years in prison for misappropriation of funds and possession of unexplained wealth, she appealed to the Supreme Court in June this year. According to the judgment, the Supreme Court also determined that the Buddha Dordhanma project, though initiated by Lam Tsiriwandi, is not a private venture but a government project. The judgment states that the state provided basic infrastructure like road, electricity and water and waived off tax for visits by the project's foreign sponsors to Bhutan. Moreover, the Supreme Court ordered property seized by the Anti-Corruption Commission from Anim Damche to be auctioned and the proceeds to be deposited into the Buddha Dordhanma project's account. The seized properties include a land near swimming pool in Thimphu, a Prado, a Fortuner, and an Alto car. The Supreme Court sentenced her to 8 years in prison for misappropriation of funds. According to the judgment, Anim Damche misappropriated over 53 million yutam from the project fund. Earlier this year, the High Court's judgment stated that she misappropriated 57 million yutam, but there was a decrease of 4 million yutam when it comes to the Supreme Court's judgment, which the court stated that during the legal proceedings, Anim Damche submitted evidence of using the funds for the project. According to the judgment, she has to restitute more than 56 million ngitam within 6 months from the day of the judgment. This includes 3 million ngitam borrowed by one of her relatives from the project fund and 150,000 ngitam also used by an individual. In addition to the 8 years imprisonment, she was given an additional 1-year prison term for possessing unexplained wealth. However, she can pay 45,000 ngitam in lieu of the prison term. Kinsang Haden for BBS News. And the Supreme Court partially reversed the High Court's judgment regarding Anim Damche's tax evasion case. The court sentenced her to 6.5 years in prison for evading tax. Earlier this year, the High Court handed her a 9-year imprisonment. She was found guilty of evading tax in relation to her cordyceps business, Thai Metal Export and Import Enterprise. According to the judgment, Anim Damche was found to have evaded tax for 8 years from 2010 to 2017. She has also been asked to restitute over 63 million ngitam to the government within 6 months. The Supreme Court had partially reversed the High Court's judgment, stating that the lower court had applied the Penal Code Amendment Act of Bhutan 2021 and sentenced her to 9 years. Whereas the judgment stated that during the time of commission of the crime, Penal Code Amendment Act of Bhutan 2011 was in effect, and so the Supreme Court convicted her of a third-degree felony. Similarly, the Chief Executive Officer of the Thai Metal Export and Import Enterprise, Yuantin Jamso, was sentenced to 3 years in prison for aiding and abetting Anim Damche in tax evasion. The High Court also sentenced him to 3 years earlier this year. According to the judgment, he produced double books of accounts and made double invoices to hide business revenue and evade taxes. The tax evasion case was registered with the Thimphu District Court in 2021. Kinsang Haden for BBS News. Bhutan's economic growth rate is expected to slow down to 3% in 2024. This is according to the International Monetary Fund's latest World Economic Outlook report released on Wednesday. The 2024 number is a 2.3 percentage points drop from the 5.3% growth projected for this year. Bhutan's growth estimate is one of the lowest among emerging and developing Asian nations.
The country's GDP growth rate for 2022 was recorded at 5.21% by the National Statistics Bureau. However, contrary to the NSB numbers, the World Economic Outlook recorded Bhutan's GDP growth rate for last year at a modest 4.8%.
As for this year, the International Monetary Fund projects Bhutan's economic growth rate to increase to 5.3%, over half a percentage point more than government projections. Despite strong growth projections for this year, the IMF sees the country's real GDP growth to slow down to 3% next year. The report also shows that Bhutan's GDP will be only 3.6% in 2028.
Now, this dampens the government's target to sustain growth at an average of 5.2% in the next 5 years. According to the Finance Ministry's Macroeconomic Situation Report, an upward growth trajectory was projected with 2 hydropower projects in Nikachu and Punasanchu hydropower projects expected to commission next year.
The government also hopes its spending continues to boost aggregate demand and investments are implemented on time to meet the GDP growth projections. As for inflation, the rate at which the prices of goods and services increase is expected to slow down in the coming years and hover around rates which is healthy for the economy. Inflation rate for this year is expected to average out at about 5.2% and drop to 4.4% next year.
Meanwhile, growth in emerging and developing Asian nations is expected to rise from 4.5% in 2022 to 5.2% this year before declining to 4.8% next year. In India, Bhutan's major trading partner, growth rate is projected to remain strong at 6.3% both in 2023 and 2024. With camera person Chimirinzin, this is Sharab Doji, BBS News.
In a move to manage the non-performing loans of the Bhutan Development Bank, the bank has set a stringent criteria whereby loan applicants have to have at least 5 acres of land to avail themselves of loan. To this, the Finance Minister said, this criteria is discriminatory in nature and defeats the very mandate of the bank.
The Royal Monetary Authority in May last year suspended loans from the Bhutan Development Bank. After almost a year, the first partial lifting of the loan was approved by the central bank in March this year. The bank was allowed to sanction loans in 5 sectors: agriculture, livestock, forestry, logging, consumer loan, and loan against fixed deposit to 11 branches out of 35 branches. Gradually, the bank lifted loans to all the branches. However, after the RMA approved the bank to resume their normal credit flow, the BDBL introduced several checklists, one of which is the eligibility to acquire loan from the bank. The criterion mentioned that a person availing for loans from BDBL should hold land above 5 acres or equivalent in the individual's name. To this, the Finance Ministry wrote an official letter to the bank on Monday this week, stating that the bank has made access to financing more difficult. The bank has been directed to immediately recall the criterion.
BDBL back in 1980s was established as BDFC, Bhutan Development Finance Corporation. So this is a policy instrument. This is a policy development bank, and during the establishment of BDFC, if you go into the genesis, the foundation, why BDBL was established, it is primarily to support rural development through access to financing for the rural communities. Now, if you are asking for 5 acres of land or more to access a loan, then you are totally going against the core mandate as to what BDBL is supposed to do. So for that matter, I have reminded the BDBL management and the board to immediately lift that condition.
The Finance Minister added that he has also asked the bank to work closely with the central bank and initiate facilitating the new loan applications, ensuring the priorities for new loan to be given to rural farmers, the CSI sector, and startups. People in rural areas said this new system of availing loans from the bank is as good as making the loan inaccessible to them.
People in olden days had land up to 10 acres or more. However, now only 1 or 2 might be having 5 acres. But personally, I feel majority might have only an acre of land or less. If the situation to avail loan is like that, then we are in a great problem.
To be very honest, now some people they even don't have more than 1 acre. I feel that it should be reconsidered. Otherwise, it's not going to benefit our farmers. Our people, they avail loan because they don't have the financial ability.
I don't think this is applicable because people who have below 5 acre, they can't start any business, so they will remain poor only, and there will be richer people will go only rich, so poor will also remain poor.
The Bhutan Development Bank said there's no specific conditions on the minimum requirement of land. However, as part of their internal risk management, the bank does review the size of the land as part of the appraisal. The bank added that it remains vital for banks to continuously adjust their lending methodologies to align with evolving legal and regulatory prerequisites. This adaptation, according to bank, is crucial for risk mitigation and upholding responsible lending practices. However, the bank also said they are in the process of working out on a way forward for introducing new business model. Samtin Dolkar, BBS News.
That's all for this week. Thank you for watching.